Well, following the Show 20 disaster piece that was yours truly, we're back and better than ever. This show is a JK with your pals Jason Tudor and Keith Pinnell. It's the Tuesday audio only show, and we are happy, joy to be back with you for yet another hour of frivolity and fun. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Got some good news. I can't go much into it, so I hate to be Mr. McVague here.
You're vague booking? You're vague booking.
Some good news from some friends back in the States. So I'll just leave it at that, and I'm happy for them. So other than that, it was an off and on, very nice day. This weekend is supposed to be fan-friggin-tastic. So I hope you get out and travel on Saturday, and we have great golf games on Sunday.
I think that is in the cards, though I think I may have to go to Cora on Sunday since that's when France's border opens, but playing it by ear from day to day. As we do at the beginning of the show, we'd like to tell you who's sponsoring the show. That would, of course, be first my book, Seven from the System. It is a collection of speculative fiction and science fiction anthology. I'd like to thank those of you who've provided feedback, who've bought it over the past couple weeks and have allowed me the opportunity to hear what you have to say about it. It's been very positive and very encouraging, and I very much appreciate that. You can pick the book up on Amazon in Kindle or in print. The Kindle is $4.99. The print, I believe, is $5.99 or $6.99. Either way, the prices are there, easy to find. Go get you a copy and let me know. And if you're local, please let me sell you a copy locally, and you can come to me for that. It's also brought to you by my friend Aaron Kusterer. That's AARONKUSTERER.com. He has a new single coming out next week called Breathless, and we think you're going to love it. It's a great song, and it premieres on the 12th, and I did the album art for it, and I'm very excited for you to hear the song. So I hope you'll go to aaronkusterer.com, but more importantly, find him on Spotify, get him tuned in on your playlists, and make him a part of your music rotation and all of that. And before we get into blabbing, let me just hype the bracket for Saturday. This Saturday's bracket is Best James Bond Song. And there are 12 contenders this time, so a lot of play-in games. That's one of Keith's favorites, I think, having a number of play-in games. But there really just weren't enough contenders to merit a full 16. But it's a strong field. I think people have varying opinions. I think we're all pretty familiar with the James Bond music, though it's been a while since we had a James Bond film.
Yes.
So lots of discussion there. Keith's got his favorites. I've got my favorites. We'll have a debate. We'll talk about that. And that will be the return of the live show in full working order. I guarantee it on Saturday.
You guaranteed it.
We do our Saturday shows at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Facebook, on our Facebook page. We'd appreciate if you go over and give that a like. And that's where we are. So you have some friends who are doing well in the States with something, right?
Everything else is going well. Talked to my daughter today.
Right.
She's doing great. Back living with her mom after graduating college and taking some time off. House full of cats and yeehaw, but she's doing great. Parents are doing great. I mean, I have nothing to complain about.
No.
Even being out of the office and working from home, that's first world problem. Now, I will say something popped up in my timeline today that reminded me how bad it could be.
Yeah.
As you know, and our hardcore listeners know, I came here from Fort Sill after 14 years, which also goes into tonight's quiz. But anyway, back in 2014, if you remember, where were you in 2014?
2014, I was in New York. I was either just arriving in New York or was well into New York. Okay,
June 2014 was when President Obama signed a thing, whatever the president signs.
Executive orders.
Yes, executive order, and allowed immigrant children to be housed on military installations. And Fort Sill was one of those. And, of course, being public affairs and working the media side of it, got the brunt of it. And so there's several different aspects here in that I saw the absolute worst of humanity. Remember, these are children, mostly without parents, because their parents said, just go, follow them, or they gave them to a coyote to get across the border or whatever. So these are children between ages of 8 and 13. They're not old enough to be gang members. They're not, and that was the thing. Well, they're bringing, they're going to be a gang, and they're going to start gangs, and they're going to get a riot going. And, okay. or they're going to bring diseases, or all this on the Fort Sill Facebook page,
Right.
the local media Facebook page, all this, and I just you want to answer evils, every single one, kind of like the idiots about COVID,
Yeah.
but worse. And then on the flip side of it, we, as the Fort Sill Public Affairs Office, could not talk about what was going on.
No.
The only thing we were allowed to talk about was the building and the infrastructure. So imagine me taking probably 25 media calls a day for 90 days,
Right.
including weekends, saying, can you tell us? No, I can't. You have to talk to HHS. Can you tell us? No, I can't. You have to talk to HHS. If you want to ask me about the building, what the building is used for, what was it for? Well, up until about a month ago, it housed about 2,000 basic trainees.
Right.
Now it's in the cycle position where it's being remodeled. It happened to be open, and the Army said, we can stick them there, and the President said, stick them there. And that's it. Well, are they getting TV? Can they watch? I can't say anything about it. So it was the worst 90 days, and I've never been deployed. Don't get me wrong. I've never been deployed. This was the worst 90 days of my professional career. So that just popped up in my timeline today.
So you can imagine what our colleagues are going through today as they are being queried about this whole business of perhaps Army bases, Army posts that are named after Confederate leaders or Confederate whatevers, and they're taking the media queries for those. I imagine it's something similar, but not quite as dire as, one is children and one is a name. So also going through that. And then I also read before we came on that there are members of the D.C. National Guard, apparently, allegedly, and I'm not sure about the source, who are testing positive for COVID-19 after coming back from helping out with the protests. So it's an interesting sort of mixed bag of things. Our borders open, of course, internally on the 15th, but there was something issued by Europe as a collective that said external people, so United States, Britain, or anyone coming into the Schengen area, if you're not familiar with the Schengen area, it's pretty easy to look up. It's difficult to explain, but it's it is a trade zone. It is a sort of common European area that other countries that aren't necessarily in NATO or even necessarily in the EU are part of, like Estonia, I believe. And those countries, you can go between those countries, but you can't come in from the outside into those until July. Which brings up a good story to sort of swing us back to a lighter mood. Have you ever stayed in an Airbnb before? Or
I have not.
All right.
I just feel I get the woogies thinking about staying in somebody else's house that I don't know.
Well, let me give you some big woogies. So about a month before the COVID thing kicked off, so I don't even remember when that was, but it was before COVID, not too long before COVID, rather. Dee Dee and Annabelle and I decided to go to France and visit the Champagne region. It's an actual region called the Champagne region, if you're not familiar, where the champagne comes from, and it's the only place that manufactures that kind of wine that can call itself champagne. Otherwise, it's got to be called sparkling wine or whatever, highfalutin words they want to make up for it, right? So I wanted to stretch out a little bit. Now, big admittance here, I'm not the one who makes the travel plans. It's not my bag. Dee Dee enjoys doing it most of the time, but every once in a while she wants me to take some initiative, right? And that's fair. And oftentimes I take initiative myself. But in general, Dee Dee handles the arrangements and, this is where I want to go. And I'm usually like, cool, I'll drive us, or cool, whatever, and do my part in that. So I decided to step out in this particular case and say, you know what? I'm going to get the hotel. I'm going to get a bitchin' hotel in a bitchin' place so that we all remember. And when we visit these champagne houses and get their drink and whatever, it will be something to remember. Oh shit!
Now, when is this?
This is, I want to say, January maybe. It was back. I'll have to look at my photos.
Oh, since we've been here though.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. It was like November, December, January, somewhere in there. I'll have to look up the photos another time. But anywho, so I'm like looking at stuff online, and it's not expensive. It's actually fairly reasonable. And then the one thing I saw was this one little place, and it looked fantastic. It had a few great reviews. Yes.
No, I was just thinking, I think
he pointed, so I got to go to him.
No, I pointed at you on the screen. Yes, I think you've told me this story, but go ahead, please.
I wasn't sure if I had or not. So anyway, so we I see this thing and I'm like, yes, this is the one. She's going to love me forever. I'm going to be in it. It's going to be great. My daughter's going to praise me. We're going to have a great time. We're going to fall back on this nice comfy place where everybody gets a bed and it's going to be great. So we drive to Champaign. It's about 2.5, 3 hours, maybe 3 hours if you do it comfortably. Pay all the tolls, go through everything, get to the place. And we went there at night because we wanted to get there the night before and then head out on our own and do Saturday and most of Sunday and then come back. So I'm expecting to find some sort of residence or some sort of, like hotelish thing or something like that. And we end up with basically, we are in an area that I honestly couldn't figure out where we were going. And then we happen to see, and it's late, it's like 10:30, I think, maybe a little earlier than that. But anyway, in any case, there's this, it's not a great neighborhood. I mean, it's one of those neighborhoods that's even questionable by French standards, I think. And we were driving around, and finally I just see this large tower. And surrounding it is like graffiti, broken cars. But the address thing keeps pointing to this tower. And I'm like, oh, shit. There's no way this can be it. The good news was it wasn't that. But there was a building in front of it that wasn't in as great a shape either. And it was literally somebody's residence. So I'm already like strike 2.5. I mean, I can't even, strike 1 is not there. And this is all on me. So we get out of the car, we grab our suitcase. We had a couple suitcases full of stuff. You have to buzz in, and then you buzz in, and then the stairwell, if you're a New Yorker or if you're an Angelino or if you're a Chicagoan, has that wonderful smell of subway urine fragrance that you might be familiar with, right? So it had a slight urine fragrance, and plus it was just dark, like it was not well lit. And the first thought that went through my head was, this is a great place for someone to get murdered. So anyway, we go to the door. It's right there off the thing. So I knew it was going to be loud because people come and go out of this building. Open it up. It's this dinky little, I want to say apartment, but not really. It's sort of a duplex-ish sort of thing. And there's one bed and one couch. And the couch is actually sort of broken. So we ended up like staying the night there, and like the TV didn't even work. The room we were in was like incredibly hot, and we even tried to open a window, but we couldn't open the window because there was so much traffic going by. I struck out at least twice, maybe 3 times making this baby happen, and it was horrible. So this is a buyer beware.
Did not lie?
You think? It was bad. I mean, even the reviews were like, this is a great place, lovely little cozy, blah, 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 blah. And, cozy means small, and there was some other, but it was just bad. And so we actually ended up leaving the next day and going and finding a place that was more near to the champagne houses we were going to the next day, and it was great. It was fantastic. But then the woman was wondering why we were leaving early, so we had to make up some excuse, and it's like, oh, my grandmother left a cake in the oven or something like that. Right, and so we had to boogie on. So that is, cautionary tale as the borders come open. Don't do what Jason did, and I'm sure you won't. But Jason did it, right? So
that makes me not even want to try Airbnb. I have friends, very close friends who have used Airbnbs in the States and love to do it. Yeah. I don't. Maybe I'll just try it once, and if I have a great experience, that'll turn my mind onto it. But I would rather stay in a hotel where I can go down and yell at somebody if something's wrong.
When I went back for my mom's funeral in San Diego, which is coming up on the year anniversary, I stayed in one, and it was fine. My sister Amanda and I kind of shared the place, and it had a couple of bedrooms, and it was fine. It was fine for what it was, which was like a 3 or 4 day stay. And you use the room basically to sleep in and shower in, and that was it. But it passed all the right tests. This place didn't even come close, and it felt like you were going to get shot. So it was. So there was an air. I guess a positive on that is there was an air of excitement to it. That's something, right?
Nice.
What do you got?
I got nothing. Oh man, no, that was good. And I'm sorry to start the show off with such a downer, but that's just what was in my brain. Right. I apologize. Remote learning. You have a little bit of experience with that.
I do.
I don't have. My child is out of the high school realm. She's in fact just graduated college, and she did her last month or whatever it was remotely. But just to remind everybody what happened, at least here, and I think most of the states
In a lot
too,
of schools.
yeah, was okay because of the pandemic, they closed the schools, but it was still early enough in the last part of the year that they wanted the kids to stay in classwork, in the classroom environment.
Right.
So they make the kids and the parents, if you will, sign into a particular program on a computer, and the teachers sign in and have special permissions and all that and teach class. Now, you mentioned Dee Dee. Dee Dee's a teacher, and you have a school-age daughter. So the article I read, what the headline said, the verdict is in on remote learning, and it does not work. Again, this was one story. But it caught my attention because I know you went through it. You guys went through it. I have a teacher friend right here at Ramstein, besides Dee Dee, that said she did not like it from the teacher's point of view. And my thought is, and I said this, I think maybe on one of our earliest shows, was okay, say you're a teacher, but you also have kids, children of your own. So you have to get, like Dee Dee, so you have to get your child on the computer for her class.
Right.
While teaching the students you're supposed to be teaching. So
right.
I could see how it would be a little, as you said, exciting, a little sporty, but from your perspective, how was it? How was what was it, 2 months now? 2.5 months?
I only have a narrow view of the perspective, as I was only here, I think, for about a week before I got the opportunity to go back to work. So I don't know that – I think my observation is fair, but I'll say a couple of things first. First, whatever the article said, that in making a judgment that remote learning doesn't work, let's unpack that for a minute. There are businesses based on remote learning. Hundreds, if not thousands, of colleges and universities across the United States make millions of dollars in revenue on remote learning. Here is, say, Dodea, Dodds, the Georgia school system, the Oklahoma school systems, whatever you want to paint this with, thrown into a situation where they want to make the best of a situation. Okay? Mm-hmm. They have all of these tools at their disposal that they use occasionally that they are familiar with. In the same way that you are familiar with the core web system or the Divots upload system. You know how to use it. You're not a master yet, but you're getting there. It's coming along, right? So, but now you're thrown into a crisis and you're expected to be the expert on these systems. And not only that, not one system, but try 6 systems, 7 systems, where you have to go from, say, Google Hangouts to Zoom, to GoToMeeting, to I'm trying to think of some of the other platforms that are used. So there is a platform for meeting children. There is a platform for distributing the information. There are a couple of platforms for that, and there are platforms for other things. So now the teacher has to become basically a software engineer and an integrator to figure out how to make all this stuff work to be the most productive for her 30 students. Let's just take a regular teacher, like an English teacher, math teacher. Denise is a special education teacher, so it's a bit different. Not only that, she has to conduct meetings with staff. She has to conduct meetings with administration, and she still has to conduct her own business while building lesson plans in software she's unfamiliar with. The headline is completely irrelevant because it doesn't measure correctly the situation that the teachers were put in order to be measured upon whether or not remote learning works or not. It's not a fair judgment. And if the teachers had to do it again, I bet they could do it this fast and have a million recommendations on how to make it better. Now, you said another thing that caught my interest, which was this. Teachers don't like it. Of course teachers don't like it because teachers make their money making connections and relationships with children and parents. And
I wish this was video so you could see me, or so that the audience could see me vociferously nodding my head. Yes.
You make relationships with students and parents that last a lifetime, specifically students. That teacher who touches you in such a way that at some point in your life you actually do the thing that Mr. Ing, my sixth grade teacher who was an inventor, Ms. Woodward, my English literature teacher in ninth grade, people who affect your life because of one or two things. It's not necessarily a body of work, but it might be one or two things that affect your life. Ann Krill, my drama teacher from high school. I could go on. And Mrs. Bachtold, my third grade teacher or fourth grade teacher from Midway Island. I could go on and on and on. The bigger point is, yes, some teachers very much dislike having to teach from a remote setting. That's because their relationships and their connections are with children face to face, and they understand their children in many of the ways that parents do, and they like their children do, and they want to make the connections, and they want to carry this out. The headline's not fair. I think my wife did an absolutely amazing job juggling all this and putting it together with a laptop that they gave her before she walked out the door that she was completely unfamiliar with. So now you've got a piece of hardware that she's never used before. And she has to go through this rigor of basically running her class. Now, to that end, the school was flexible in terms of how things were measured and assignments, but there were still assignments, there was still rigor to the process and the whole thing. There was just a little more wiggle room around that. So the question you asked me is I'm for it. I'm for it in the sense of if the teachers and the students are prepared to carry it out in such a way to which they're all productive and can learn and can gain from it, as with universities and colleges and others that practice this day to day, that move that, this is my favorite phrase, that move that muscle regularly. If you don't move that muscle regularly, it atrophies. You have to practice with it. It's not a twitch muscle, but you have to make it understand what it has to do every day. So that's my long way around saying, yes, I support it, but under the right conditions. And my wife did an absolutely slamming fucking job helping her students out and taking care of other teachers and helping others doing this through remote for the past 4 or 5 weeks or whatever it's been. And the school year ends, we're recording this on Tuesday, so it ends tomorrow. So I think she's done an absolutely fantastic job. You're listening to this show as a JK with your pals Jason and Keith. Don't forget we have a Saturday live show at 9 o'clock. We have a bracket coming up that week, James Bond music, and James Bond themes rather, and so that. So anyway, I did the ID.
Was that a PJ suggestion?
What's that?
The James Bond theme?
No, Daniel Nathaniel, the winner of last week's bracket, suggested James Bond themes, and I thought, great idea. I was thinking of some other ones, but that was a good one. I'm trying to sort of stick to topical stuff. I was thinking about doing some Army stuff, like for Army birthday, but you'd done Army last week, and I figured I could do this for the new debut quiz tonight, so I had that one. It wasn't a problem.
Perfect. So. Yeah, and going back to the teacher thing real quick, I wholeheartedly agree. I think, first of all, the author of this article probably does not have kids who had to take part in it. He's looking from the outside in, and it got the job done. It was a no-win situation that teachers and students were put in that they pulled out, and the worst thing about the whole thing was the 2020 graduates, whether it's college or high school, didn't get a quote-unquote real graduation and get to do all the senior celebration stuff. So other than that, no, I knew you would be passionate about it one way or the other.
By the way, who cares about that more? The parents or the kids?
Oh, parents do.
Yeah, the parents do because that's what they had, and they just sort of push that expectation on their children.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe the kids are okay with it. Maybe the kids are like, I'm done with high school and I can get on with my life. Maybe the kids are like, this will be something that I remember. Mine was unique. Mine was a motorcade. But how many people are saying, I'm so sad you didn't get a regular graduation? I don't care. I don't have to listen to people drone on for 2.5 hours or whatever it is, making speeches and everything else. I'm perfectly good. You mean I get to ride in a car with a sign out of the T-top that says Black Lives Matter or congratulations to me, which all those signs were on debut for both graduation parades that I watched. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll remember that forever. But I may not remember the valedictorian, who I probably love, but they've got a manufactured speech that's been approved by the school, that's been approved by their parents, so they get up in the room. And we are synergizing our efforts going forward as students, and the memories we have made here will last forever. Thank you. Bye-bye. I mean, which would you prefer?
No, I wholeheartedly agree. And there was a meme going around, say, hey, for all you 2020 graduates that are missing your graduation, here's how you can get it. Have somebody you really don't know pick up a phone book, read 1,000 names in a monotone voice for 3 hours.
Yeah.
There's your graduation.
There it is. Right? And I'm fine with whatever the student thinks is best for the student. And the parents, and you know,
agree.
but it's another thing though when I hear, oh, they didn't get this graduation. That to me just is a connective of, I had this, therefore they should have this. It's okay. Well, did you ask them what they wanted?
A little part of it is as well. You know what? I've supported your ass for 18 years.
No,
I want the culmination of this.
I dig on that too. I dig parents' prerogative. I totally dig that. I understand that too. But I think there's also, you know, I don't try to force my expectations on Annabelle. That's the way I would phrase that.
Sure.
I want her to do things. There are certain things we have rigor for in the house. But if I said what, you know, my statement to her wouldn't be, you must be very sad that you're not getting a regular graduation. My statement to her would be, what do you think of this graduation? Are you enjoying it? What do you think? And if she was, that'd be that. That's it. Absolutely. Do you know that, how did we, by the way, so with all the shit that's going on and everything that's happening, how do we fucking get back to UFOs?
I don't know.
Right?
I keep seeing that in all these memes that are out there. You know, we had January through March, we have COVID, and then then UFOs, and then killer hornets, and then
murder hornets.
Because I would have remembered UFOs because I'm not a geek about it.
UFOs have just been sort of percolating, you know, like just bubbling water. Like they spotted one in France. Oh, UFOs seem to be, and the Air Force has validated that. And it's like, wait a minit, when did this dialogue start? When was this dialogue deployed?
Yeah, the video from the Navy F-18s has recirculated and that kind of thing. So but seriously, I don't get
either.
The UFO thing, because I think I would know if somebody had made contact, because I would pay attention to that.
Yeah,
I'm not that guy with the weird hair, saying everything comes back to UFOs, but I have this philosophy that if Earth is the only smart thing in all of space, if we're the only intelligent life, I couldn't even think of the words intelligent life. If we are the only intelligent life ever, then we're in trouble.
Yeah, and that's an ego play to even believe that. Speaking of bullshit, I read this headline today. Probiotics don't do much for gut health. No shit. Really, another snake oil has failed the test. I mean, how many of these things? I mean, we're older people, fine, but how many of these things have we seen in our life that's just like, really, you've been pushing kale on me for the last 10 years, and it turns out it doesn't do a fucking thing for me. Here's probiotics, which I've never even tried. I know they put it in yogurt drinks, and they say, oh, yogurt has a lot of this bacteria that's good for you, and I buy that. But also, yogurt is packed with fucking sugar. So here's probiotics and then all of a sudden, they really don't do much for your gut health. Oh, so I guess the probiotics business is done. So they needed to tell us rather than I don't get it.
Yeah, I've never, again, being diabetic, I've never gone into things like that. Mm-hmm. Just because that and the things that stuff is in, I don't like.
Right.
So
you don't like yogurt.
I got on a yogurt kick a couple of years ago, but I get the sugar-free and I get the plain. I don't like chunks of fruit in it or anything like that. So I get the plain vanilla, the plain creamsicle, that kind of thing. But I haven't had one in a while.
Yogurt to me is like Dr. Pepper. It's like a once every 4 or 5 months thing. I'm like, you know what? I got a taste for Dr. Pepper, and I'll hit the AFES soda machine, and get a Dr. Pepper. Every once in a while, I'm like, you know what? That strawberry on the bottom yogurt with 70 million grams of sugar, I need a couple of those. I'm going to get that.
I'll tell you what. You want to clean yourself out, hit up Taco Bell.
Oh, yeah.
Especially
our Taco Bell. That's no joke.
Yes. You want to clean yourself out, make some tortilla. That reminds me. Yeah. I've got this thing that when my dad was a young senior airman back in the early 70s, and they were, what are we going to have to eat tonight? Well, let's go through the cupboard and look. And there's hot dogs, and there's a block of cheese, and we've got some cooking oil,
Right.
and some tortillas, some corn tortillas. Okay, well,
That sounds like a
so
meal to me.
my mom, what she did was she boiled, because we didn't know microwaves back then.
Right.
She boiled the hot dogs, sliced them, trimmed cheese, put cheese in the hot dog, wrapped it in a corn tortilla, and then cooked it in the oil. We call that a crispy dog. And to
Mrs.
this day,
Yeah.
it's a heart attack on a plate, really is what it is.
Mrs.
But,
Pinnell, when can I come over to your house for dinner? Because that just
Dude,
sounds absolutely fantastic.
I will make it for you.
All right. Well, here's what we're going to do. I need you to come to my house so we can do a live show. Sit across from each other. We could do this without having your audio sound a little Skypey and without the delays. You can make some crispy dogs. We'll get drunk and we'll do a good show. So that'll be a fun one. All right. So the next thing.
Anyway,
go ahead.
Crispy dog will clean you out. Crispy dogs will clean you out. So
all the oil,
that's where
I
was
would
going with
think.
that.
Yeah, I think the oil would do that.
It's the oil.
For John B., Keith and I noticed today, or the headline was, Virginia man collects $800,000 in lottery thanks to his purchase of 8 identical tickets. Now, John B. likes to play the lottery, and he usually says, too bad for all your suckers, tomorrow, right? And then, in the next day he goes, damn, I didn't get a single number.
I'm back at work. Sorry.
Yeah. 800K is a pretty good number, so he probably gets 480, 470 of that after taxes. That's not a bad deal. Okay, so we talked about this, I think, either the last show or the show before that. And so Matt Adams, I did it again. Sorry, Matt Davis, who is reading my book. Thank you so much. A bit of sports here, just giving you heads up. So we needed to figure out all of the start times and things because that was kind of mattered to us. So I did the research. Here it is. NBA starts July 31st. 22 teams, 8-game season that leads sort of into a playoff. I guess they're housing everybody on the Disney campus. So I'm guessing they're clearing out like Shades of Green and all these other hotels that they can't use anyway, and housing, I guess, training staff. So that's my sense. I haven't really looked farther into it, but ESPN, the official PR agent of the NBA and the NFL and UFC and a few others, has pretty much gotten whole hog and saying this is going forward. So are you a basketball fan? I never really asked you that.
Not really.
Okay.
Over the last, what has it been? However long they've been in Oklahoma City, the Thunder came to Oklahoma City. So I pay attention to what the Thunder are doing.
Yeah.
But to be quite honest, I'm not sure I could name anybody on the Thunder right now.
No, that's
after
fair.
Durant left, after Westbrook left,
Yeah.
the Australian's still there, and I love him. But anyway, I'm not a big basketball fan. Basketball to me is a lot like baseball and
Hockey?
Basketball.
Soccer?
If I'm there, I'm enjoying it. If I have to watch it on TV and there's something else to attract my attention, I'm done.
Yeah. All right. So the other two that are just sort of in limbo still are baseball, which has proposed a 76-game season, and I'm pretty sure unless it says something about the players will get their full pay for the season, they're not going to buy into it. They don't want to be compromised into a situation of losing money, and then when they go into a contract negotiation next time, having to be told, well, you did this before, why won't you do it now? So their union is trying to be pretty careful about that. And then I couldn't really vector this, but all I see for NHL right now is 24-team tournament with 5-game series as part of that tournament. So that looks a little NBA-ish there. I'm a hockey fan, so go Red Wings, but they won't be in that tournament for sure. I know that. They are horrible. They have been for the last 3 years. So NFL, they have begun, I think, opening team facilities. So that's something. So I guess that means the Cowboys and all others can go back to work. And NFL is the interesting one, especially now with all the protests and things happening. There's that new dynamic of, okay, will there be kneeling? Will there not be kneeling? How will that affect the fan base? Are we even going to be able to watch games with all the other noise going on because of both, on either side or whatever it might be? I care about both sides. Please don't get that in the wrong way. It's, that just, is there even going to be football, or is the narrative of football this year going to be, all of that, which is, I think, is an interesting question. It's not one we necessarily need to get into deeply here, but they haven't really said sort of how they're going to do football this year. I think college has said something to the effect of, again, they're going to have like a 1-to-6 ratio. So again, I think it's that theory that we spoke about of season ticket holders or alumni or something like that, right?
from what I understand, there's two options as far as starting the season with the NFL. Start at when they were supposed to in late August,
right,
and play the full season to empty or sparsely populated stadiums.
right.
Or start in late September and play a shortened season and hopefully to bigger crowds.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. Now, the other thing, going back to what you were talking about, Paul Tagliabue, Jesus, Goodell,
I miss
Roger
Paul
Goodell,
Tagliabue a little bit.
actually came out and said, I'm sorry, the NFL screwed up by not acknowledging what Colin Kaepernick was saying and what he was fighting for. So that leads me, great segue, by the way, leads me to my question. And again, we don't have to talk it too much, but I had this theory, and I may be full of shit. I freely admit that. Do you think that his message would have been better received if he had kneeled during any other time of the game? Do you think the mass, the Trump mass, the MAGA mass, every mass would have said, if he had kneeled at the coin toss, if he had kneeled halftime warm-ups, if he had kneeled in the post-game press conference, Colin, why are you kneeling? Well, here's why. If he had kneeled any other time during the game, do you think the "you don't disrespect the flag" crowd would have heard his message a little bit more?
I think if Carlos Jones had raised his gloved fist in the 1968 Olympics in the training facility rather on the podium, there wouldn't been a message opportunity there. I think if Rosa Parks had sat in the middle of the bus or toward the middle third of the bus, it wouldn't have mattered as much as if she'd sat in the front of the bus. I think context weighs a lot in everything, and I think it's important to connect the message that he had about police brutality with the state of the country. And the way he felt about that was to take that protest and do it during that time. That doesn't mean we all agree with the protest. It doesn't mean we all believe in what he says. What it means is that there is a protest, and others, many others, felt the same way. So I think, to your question, context matters. And you're in the PR business, so you're going to put your figurehead in front of a background of things that support him or her, and not just put him in the middle of nowhere so there's no context to what he's talking about. If your figurehead is talking about support of the police, what do you want to have behind him? Police officers. If your figurehead is talking about the amazing job that the waterworks people, what does she have behind her? The waterworks people. Context is amazingly important in these situations. So the long way to answer your question is no, it wouldn't have mattered as much. But that's really an irrelevant point. There wasn't another appropriate time to make the protest, and athletes have protested in many other venues, and Americans of all races, colors, creeds, and others have reacted in a more... They've reacted in a different way. And that way was to at least respect the notion that something was going on and maybe we should look into it. So that's what I would say to that. Okay,
fair enough. That's why we have these conversations.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. I think, again, we dipped to serious again, and we want to give context to what we're feeling about these issues when we can, but we also want to keep the show light and fun and moving along. And again, you can visit our personal Facebook pages to have more context to this and talk about this even farther. All right. Are you ready for the new feature, or are you not ready for the new feature? Were you able to study up in the last 7 or 8 hours?
No, but I'm ready.
All right, cool. Because this is the first of what I hope will be a fun series of quizzes that we're going to do on the Tuesday audio only show called The Nine. which are 9 questions about a particular topic. And I have given Keith notice on what the topic is, but I haven't given him notice on what the questions are. So he knows that the topic is about the Army. Now, we both work for the Army, and the Army is having its birthday this weekend on June 14th, which is also Flag Day. The Army was founded in 1775, so it actually makes it older than the United States. Don't worry, that's not a quiz question. And so we talk about that a little bit. So these are sort of questions about the Army, but things about the Army, interesting facts about the Army. Are you ready, sir?
I think I'm as ready as I'm going to be. Is this going to be every Tuesday Stump Keith?
No, because you get to stump me next week, as long as you give me the topic in the morning. If you give me the topic 2 hours before, I'm going to tell you to shove it up your ass. So you have to at least give me the topic. You know, if it's like biochemistry and macroeconomics, I'm like, cool, at least there's websites I can go to glean, a few words off of those. But if, you hit me with that an hour before, I'm going to be like, I don't know. I'm going to make up funny answers, so.
And when you hit me with that this morning, and I thought, oh, cool, I'll go back over to some websites. And then I got busy writing a story and completely forgot. Yeah. So here we go.
But you have been an employee of the Army for 15 years, just 15 not to make you feel guilty. So, question number 1.
All right.
What famous left-handed guitar-playing Seattle native was a member of the 101st Airborne?
Jimi Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix is correct. He was indeed a member of the 101st Airborne, but for not very long.
I thought he was in the Air Force.
No, he was in the Army, in the 101st Airborne, as I mentioned. And he got discharged, I think, after a year or a month. And he just, military service was not compatible, but music was. So that's a good deal. All right.
Yeah.
Question 2. How many presidents have served in the Army? How many presidents have served in the Army? At least according to the 2 websites that I researched this on. Now, not in the military. There's more in the military, but in the Army.
Well, I know. Let's see. Obviously, Washington.
You don't have to tell me who they are. You just have to give me a number.
I'm going to say 6.
That is incorrect, sir. The actual number is 24. 24 presidents have served in the Army, and I believe the number for presidents who've served in the military is much higher than it's like. I saw it earlier and I've lost it, so I'm not going to try to do it. Somebody will tell us on the website. But 24, and to including a young Captain Abraham Lincoln. Okay, question number 3. Where did Blazing Saddles filmmaker Mel Brooks go to basic training?
Oh, I know that one. Was it Fort Sill?
It was indeed, sir. That was a setup question. Yeah, I figured you'd get that one right. It was indeed. Mel Brooks went to Fort Sill for basic training. He was a guy who removed landmines. And then after the war was over, he actually stayed in and he organized shows and entertainment for the troops in Europe sort of after the war. So that's how he sort of got his entertainment. Mel Brooks is an icon to me. He's brilliant. He's awesome. He's fearless. He's courageous. He's awesome.
And going back to the previous question, Truman. President Truman also went to Fort Sill as a field artillery officer. So there you have it.
There you go.
You got more knowledge than you wanted.
We are making people weep with the amount of knowledge that we are passing on in this little quiz.
I said yes.
Weep. True or false, Keith? The Army is the USA's second largest employer.
Wow. False.
That is incorrect. The Army is the second largest employer if you count soldiers and civilians and Guard and Reserve at about 1.1 million people. It's only behind. Take a guess who it's behind.
The DOD.
No.
That's where I was going.
No.
Take a guess who it's behind. Amazon.
No, but you're in the right sort of nomenclature. It's Walmart. It's behind Walmart. Right.
Okay.
And that's kind of a weird question. Employer is, you join the military to serve, and, you can do that one. All right. He founded Playboy and was a fantastic cartoon artist, but what did Hugh Hefner do in the Army? I know you're not going to get this, so just take a shot. I'll give you 3 shots.
You would think I would know that just because. A cook.
He was not a cook. He would not be a cook.
Was he an officer?
He was not an officer.
Public affairs.
No, he was an infantry clerk. So I'm guessing it's the same job that Ewan McGregor had in Black Hawk Down, who's the guy doing the typing
Yeah.
So that was fun. All right. So we're about halfway through this. And by the way, I have a bonus question. So the 9 tonight will actually be 10. So, how are you feeling? Are you all right? Do you need a towel?
No, I'm good.
You want to
I'm good.
wipe? All right. The 25th Infantry Division was the duty station for this star, TV mostly, and music, and MC of Dave Chappelle's Player Haters Ball. Who is it? Player Haters Ball. Silky Johnson.
I got nothing, man. Who is it?
You kind of said it.
I got nothing, man.
I thought you said it. All right, you don't have it? No, it's Ice-T.
Oh, Ice-T. Okay. Now, if
Ice-T.
you just said colors.
I thought you said T. I was like, I think you got it. You just didn't even know it.
No.
All right. I thought you had that. Yes, Ice-T was in Hawaii. He had a cush job in Hawaii for a while. He was in the military for 4 years. And he was, before the Army, he was selling drugs. And then he had a kid. And then he realized, I've got to stop selling drugs. I've got to get my life together. So he joined the Army. And that was sort of his jumping off point to where he is today. Congratulations to him. So many people do that and don't succeed, and he did it and did succeed. Good for him.
I think a lot of people would be surprised how many rappers come out of the military, the Army specifically. But yeah, it's interesting.
There's a rapper named Mystical who makes some of my favorite hip hop music. He's not the greatest human being in the world. If you were to judge him by his time incarcerated and the things that he did, but he did serve in the Army, and the music that he makes I enjoy very much. I wanted to be clear about making sure that was all broken out in boxes for people. Okay.
All right.
Back to the quiz. How many Army officers have worn 5 stars? Just give me the number.
Two. Damn it.
The number is 5. Can you name 3? Because I know you know names, so just throw out some names.
Omar Bradley.
Check. 1.
Oh God, why can't the guy who?
God did not wear 5 stars.
Yeah, who gave up the film? Why can't I think of his name? Marshall.
2.
One of them. Oh, well then the other one.
He's my favorite, having worked for the Marshall
What is
Center.
his name? He wore the sunglasses, the corncob pipe.
Can't believe you
I
can't
can't think
remember
of his name. I cannot think of his name. I can see him plain as day.
One of the obvious ones was a president.
Eisenhower.
That's 3. MacArthur.
Thank you.
And my favorite, Hap Arnold. That was 5. He was still in the Army Air Forces, I think. Okay, this is a tough one. Although you may get it. There's enough context clues for this, you may know it. All right. This avocado farmer and blue blood had his Army National Guard unit activated for the 1965 Watts riots. He was also a standout baseball player at the University of California. Army National Guard. I said that. Okay. Who is it? Avocado farmer, blue blood, standout baseball player, great mustache, red Ferrari.
Tom Selleck?
Tom Selleck is correct, sir, after a few
Really?
more context clues. Yes, Tom Selleck was in the California Army National Guard, and he was activated for the 1965 Watts riots, which I thought was pertinent, especially on the show that we're doing. And he's a big Vietnam veterans proponent now. He's in his 70s now. That is so bizarre
and still,
to me.
Still making it happen.
He's a great guy. I like him a lot. Okay. Here's the 9, but remember there's a bonus question. So here's the 9, which means that's the end of the quiz if you're scoring at home. And if you're scoring at home, congratulations. Here's the 9. Everyone's done a hoo-ah. What do many think it stands for? Oh, you should see his eyes, folks. He's like, I know this. I've heard this before. Now, this is just, it's informal. It doesn't really stand for anything because it's spelled different ways. But what do many think it is stand for? When I heard this, I was like, oh, shit, that makes great sense.
Hurry up and...
No.
No? All right. What is it?
So you give me an order, and I go, hooah, right? You say, Jason, go write that, sir. I go, hooah. It means heard, understood, acknowledged. Yeah, heard, understood, acknowledged.
I knew it stood for... Yeah, okay. At least I guessed smartly. No, I didn't.
I think,
anyway,
I think everybody smells it with like H-O-O-A-A. I even spelled it that way for the quiz notes. But H-U-A, I guess, could pass. All right, here's your one-time bonus question, just because I wrote 10 questions down and I didn't realize it until I got the quiz done. What is a caisson?
A caisson goes marching along. A caisson
That is what it does.
What holds a casket for a funeral.
It can.
But
in the context of the song, that was the song until 1956. What is it?
It's actually an ammo carrier.
Ding!
For a cannon. Yeah. Come on, man. I was at Fort Sill for 14 years. Yes. As the caisson.
That is correct.
Marching along.
CAISSON is caisson, if you need to Wikipedia that, folks. It is a cart that carries ammunition. So the song that the Army song was inspired by was called the U.S. Field Artillery March, and it was written by John Philip Sousa, but it was based on a work by a guy named Edmund Gruber. And so the song was when the caissons go rolling along. And then sometime around 1956, I think it was, they figured out, I don't think people know what a fucking caisson is. So they changed the lyric. And I didn't realize, I thought this was sooner than this, which is part of the reason why I did the question. I thought it was like just recently, but they changed it in 1956 to be when the Army goes rolling along. And I didn't know that, which I thought was interesting.
All the people who weren't redlegs got mad and said, well, that's not very inclusive.
Yeah. And, people like their traditions. They like, the anchor and the globe on the Marine uniform has been changed like more than a dozen times.
Really?
Yeah. It's morphed and evolved.
They're changing the Air Force song right now.
They're changing the Air Force song. They changed it. They rewrote but nobody sings like the second and third verses, so they rewrote some stuff there, and I think they rewrote one word in the first verse, which everybody sings at the end of every ceremony and luncheon and all that stuff. So here's another interesting note about the song before we get to the wrap up of the Tuesday audio only show. So this guy Gruber got. There's two stories. There's one that alleges he didn't get pissed off and he got royalties for the song. But there's a better story that says he did get pissed off and he sued the shit out of John Philip Sousa for using his song. And it wound up in court and he ended up winning and then he got his royalties. So that's the better TMZ version of that story. So that's the quiz, which is brought by AaronCuster.com, which I told you about at the beginning of the show. Go download or stream his new single. And that's that. I like you, I completed my cyber training today. I got to see, what's his name, Marty, and he gave me all the scenarios. Yeah,
Marty. It used to be Jim.
Yep. Yeah, Marty, the one-man party.
Yeah, and at least you can test out of everything now if you can.
And Matt Davis was very happy with me because I'm one of the few who actually submitted their certificate and did everything properly, so he didn't have to say do this, do this, do this. That was pretty cool. A compliment from Matt goes a long way for me, so that was pretty cool.
Well, at least you got his name right this time.
Not earlier, but this time I did.
I need Matt to tell me if I did everything right, and I'm sure I didn't because that would be too easy. That cyber training, oh, God.
It's just, the amount of computer-based training that people in the DoD go through is unbelievable. And they are taking note of it, but you've got to get these sorts of trainings somewhere. And so anyway, one of the things I didn't touch on as we sort of wrap up here is, and I wondered how you felt about this, and this sort of goes back to sports before we wrap up, and that is, I sort of breezed over this. So how do you feel about the notion that there are some athletes who are sort of on the cusp with like the Washington Nationals? Who was last year's Super Bowl winner? If it's not the Raiders, I don't give a shit and I don't remember.
It was the Chiefs.
So the Chiefs, I especially don't give a shit about that. With the Nationals, with the Chiefs and other teams who were sort of, they won and they were on the cusp, and they've got veterans who are like, I'm pretty sure I can go one more year and give this team all I got. And here's this year just gone. It's just gone. So now, and I'm not, somebody's going to make the argument, they get paid millions of dollars. What do they give a fuck about? Blah, 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 blah. But I think there is something to the notion that, this is what they've trained for and done all their life. And here they've got another chance to get another championship or even their first championship. And this year, especially like running back shelf life is short. Actually, the average NFL player is only 3.5 years. A lot of people see the Peyton Mannings and the Drew Breeses of the world, and they think he's going to go on forever. But the average half-life of an NFL player is 3.5 years. But anyway, I'm talking too much. What do you got on that?
agree, especially for the last part, because for any professional athlete, time is a finite thing.
Right.
So when you're at your peak, you want to be doing that. You want to be able to make your money, whether it's pro basketball, whatever. So it is tough, and it's, however, not only you're looking at this year where nobody had anything to do with it.
Right.
It wasn't anybody's fault,
Right.
unless you want to blame the guy making the undercooked bat. But I look at it as, say, what about the strike shortened seasons?
Yeah.
When they vote for that and
Right.
do it to themselves.
Right.
So I feel bad for them. I feel bad for the fans because, again, football may start late. College football may start late.
Right.
Your basketball fans, your hockey fans. So I feel bad for them.
Yeah.
Again, nobody's fault. But I don't, for a professional athlete, I don't have an incredible amount of sympathy.
No, and it's not that I feel sorry for them, and as we really need to wrap this up, it's not that I feel sorry for them. It's interesting to me. It's an interesting sort of process to watch. It's an interesting sort of, in the way I don't know, looking at it from a sort of a very didactic point of view of just sort of looking in on something and going, there are some, as storytellers, right, which you and I are, we do that for a living. There are some compelling stories there that are probably very personal as to what may have happened. And so, anyway, that's how I wanted to get that in before we ran out of show. Aside from the fact that if you are getting an Amazon order sometime this week, an Amazon worker in Wales lost her engagement ring while packing boxes. So if you find that bad boy, she'd really like it back. So that'd be cool. All right.
Just do the right thing.
Do the right thing. You got anything else?
No, I'm good. Next time, maybe Saturday, we can talk about a new version 3 of the Pyramid of Trusted Media. Came out recently,
Yeah.
and I have friends who would never trust the media. The media's blowing. Insert your subject matter here.
Yeah.
All out of proportion. So maybe we can talk about that Saturday. And we'll get to it. So no, I'm good.
All right. So that show is that. Well, that is the show, I should say. Reminder is brought to you by 7 from the System, available on Amazon.com. Just search for my name, Jason Tudor, along with 7 from the System. It should pop right up. And AaronCusterer.com, whose new single, Breathless, comes out on June 12th. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the quiz. Please give feedback. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, NBC, CBS, CNN, Breitbart, One America Network, wherever else you get your podcasts from. And make sure you tune us in, and we'll ensure that we post the quiz questions when we post the episode tonight. Thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you on Saturday. Bye.
Bye.